So how would I rank the 10 films that won Best Adapted Screenplay at the Oscars in the 2010s? Hi, it's Brian. Welcome to the Awards Contender, and it's time today to talk about one of my favorite categories, Best Adapted Screenplay. We had some amazing wins in this category throughout the 2010s, and a couple that I don't love so much. Let's start at the very bottom with number 10, The Imitation Game.
Damn it, Alan's right.
What? What would the Germans think if we destroy their U-boats?
So this is such a quintessential kind of Oscar movie that people like when it's out in theaters, people like during award season, but then years go on, and is anyone today really talking about The Imitation Game? I saw it once, it was fine, it's entertaining, had some good performances in it, by Benedict Cumberbatch and Keira Knightley, who both got Oscar nominations. And it was one of those films that just was very safe, very well made, but it doesn't have a lasting impact a decade on. And so, yeah, I don't think this needed to win Best Adapted Screenplay at the Oscars. That's why I have it at number 10. It's not a bad movie, and this isn't a terrible win by any means. I just think there were better movies in this category, like Whiplash, which should have won a screenplay award. It should have been an original screenplay, come on. I mean, that was really stupid to call Whiplash an adapted screenplay just because Damien Chazelle had made a short film based on his screenplay to, I think, like build up interest, maybe funding to get the feature film off the ground. Whiplash was not adapted, really, so that was dumb. But I still think it would have been a better win in this category than The Imitation Game. The movie I would have given the gold trophy to that year in Best Adapted Screenplay was not even nominated, and that was Gone Girl, written by Gillian Flynn based on her novel. Like, that should have been nominated, that should have been in contention to win here, I think. It baffles me to this day that screenplay couldn't crack the top 5 at the Oscars. Give me a break. Now, even though I do have The Imitation Game right at the bottom, I do love Graham Moore's speech. Like, he gave one of the best speeches of the night, I'd say. So again, I'm not hating on this win. I think Graham Moore is a talented writer. It's fine. I just think in this field of 10 movies that won in this category that decade, this is probably the least of them.
Stay weird, stay different, and then when it's your turn and you are standing on the stage, please pass the same message to the next person who comes along. Thank you so much!
Number 9, Jojo Rabbit.
We shall use the graves as toilets.
Okay, no more politics. Dinner is neutral ground. This table is Switzerland. Let's eat.
So I might get some pushback on this one, I don't know. I was not the biggest fan of Jojo Rabbit. Like, I admired its ambition. There's a lot of interesting things in that movie. I didn't feel like it all came together super successfully for me. I mean, my big memory of Jojo Rabbit is that it was the last movie I saw in a theater before COVID shut everything down. Like, I saw Jojo Rabbit like mid to late February, I want to say, 2020. And then I did not return to a movie theater until August, I think, for Tenet. So that's what I think about when I think about Jojo Rabbit nowadays. But yeah, I went in with very high expectations and I liked certain things. I think Scarlett Johansson gives a very good performance. There were elements of that movie I vibed with. But overall, I didn't quite connect to that one. I know it has many fans, and that's great. I wasn't one of them. It's not a terrible win. It's a much better win than like Joker would have been in this category. Holy cow. But I would have preferred Greta Gerwig had taken this for Little Women. I love her adaptation of Louisa May Alcott's Little Women. That was one of my favorite films of the year. It's so beautifully done, and that screenplay is rock solid. So especially since she didn't win in screenplay for Lady Bird 2 years before, I would have preferred Greta Gerwig take this one for Little Women.
This is really light. This one's light. It's supposed to be heavy.
Number 8, Argo.
We got wheels up.
Wait.
All right, the winner of Best Picture at the Oscars that year, Argo, which I feel like when it comes to the Oscars, the big story there was Ben Affleck missing in Best Director, even though he kept winning director like all season at all the precursor ceremonies like Golden Globes and Critics' Choice. He won at DGA, but then he didn't get the Oscar nomination, and I remember that night being like, who is going to win Best Director? Is it going to be Spielberg for Lincoln? Is it going to be Ang Lee for Life of Pi? It turned out to be Lee, which was a great victory. But that was weird for like Argo to be the consensus choice to win Best Picture and Adapted Screenplay, even though Affleck missed in director. That was just kind of a strange turn of events that award season. So yeah, in Adapted Screenplay, that was obviously going to be Argo. It's a very screenplay-friendly film. Like, I would have probably picked Life of Pi. I just think that's a much better movie than Argo is. But it's so visually spectacular with all the 3D CGI effects and all of that. I don't think that was going to be a contender to win Best Adapted Screenplay. That makes sense to me. So Argo, it's a fine win here. I feel like in a different decade, maybe it would have been like number 6, number 5. I just feel like we got some really excellent victories in this category in the 2010s. So sadly, for Argo, I have it down at number 8.
And the Taylors and the Sheerdowns and people all over the world, in the US, in Canada, in Iran, who use creativity and intelligence to solve problems nonviolently. Thank you. Thank you.
Number 7, The Big Short.
When you work for the bank, I bet your margins are pretty nice and fat.
Let's not talk about my margins, by the way. Being nice and fat, that's a nice shirt. Do they make it for men?
So I liked The Big Short. I didn't love it. It was really cool to see Adam McKay grow as a filmmaker, go beyond the comedies with Will Ferrell and do something out of the box for him, to be sure. Get these amazing actors like Christian Bale and Ryan Gosling, and just such an insanely talented cast in this true life story. It's very riveting. It's a very fine film. I haven't seen it since it came out. Like, I haven't had a desire to revisit this one. Maybe if I saw it a second time, I would appreciate it more. Maybe I would rank this a little bit higher, number 6, number 5. I mean, it does take a lot of chances, a lot of narrative swings that could have made this movie a disaster. Like, if it hadn't have worked out as well as it did, like the Margot Robbie stuff, in the hands of a different director, screenwriter, might not have worked. So you have to give this movie credit, props, for doing something different and succeeding. Again, I like this win. It's just not one of my favorites of the decade. If I had been voting in Best Adapted Screenplay that night at the Oscars, I would have given my vote easily, I would say, to Carol. I think Carol is just one of the great films of the 2010s. I have seen that probably 3 or 4 times now, and it always just blows me away. Those performances, the direction, the costume design, the production design, that screenplay is impeccable. That should have won, I think, over The Big Short.
Most of all, if you don't want big money to control government, don't vote for candidates that take money from big banks, oil, or weirdo billionaires. Stop.
Number 6, The Descendants.
You love your mother loves you.
I can't drop it.
You have to.
You really don't have a clue, do you?
So now we get to movies I really, really like, if not love. The Descendants was on my top 10 list of 2011. That is a great film with one of George Clooney's very, very best performances. He is spectacular in that. I think he would have made an excellent win for Best Actor if The Artist had not overtaken everything that award season. I do think Clooney would have won Best Actor at the Oscars. He still only has the supporting actor win for Syriana, which seems wrong in a way. George Clooney is one of those figures in Hollywood. It feels like he should have a Best Actor win somewhere. It hasn't happened yet, maybe still in the future. but one of his top 2 or 3 performances in the movies, I do think, is in The Descendants. And Alexander Payne is such a gifted filmmaker. He's made so many wonderful films. The Descendants is absolutely one of his best. And the use of location in that film, the surprises in the narrative, it's so moving at the end. I have nothing really bad to say about this Best Adapted Screenplay Oscar win. It's just, compared to the top 5 in this list, I just don't think it's quite as impressive an adaptation, I guess. But this is pretty freaking solid work. I'm happy it won Best Adapted Screenplay at the Oscars.
So, Mom, this one's for you. Sagapopoli. And thanks for letting me skip nursery school so we could go to the movies. Thanks a lot.
Number 5, 12 Years a Slave.
Mrs. Steps won't even grab me no soap to clean with. I stink so much I make myself gag.
Now here's another terrific film that won Best Picture at the Oscars, 12 Years a Slave from 2013. This was always going to win Best Adapted Screenplay. I feel like even before that movie opened theatrically, just at the beginning of the festival circuit for 12 Years a Slave, we knew it was going to be nominated for Best Picture, and Adapted Screenplay just made sense early on. That was happening. John Ridley is such a gifted writer, and he did an amazing job on 12 Years a Slave. I feel like some people look at that movie now as more of an acting achievement than it is a screenwriting one. But I went back and watched it again, and I was really taken with all of the nuances in the storytelling. Is it one of the best adapted screenplay Oscar wins of the decade? No, I don't think it's quite at the level, especially I would say, of the top 3. But it's still impressive work. I'm very happy this won Best Adapted Screenplay.
All the praise goes to Solomon Northup. Those are his words. That is his life. All the thanks goes to the entire crew, the entire cast.
Number 4, Black Klansman.
Mississippi Wind Chime Detective is Ron Stallworth, you racist. Peckerwood, redneck, inchworm, needle dick, mother...
What a great movie this is. I've seen it twice, and both times it bowled me over. I love that cast. The direction from Spike Lee, is just an all-timer. He did such a good job with this particular project. And the screenwriting of this movie is so original and inventive. It doesn't feel like anything else ever made, really. And so you kind of knew early on that award season that Spike Lee was finally going to win an Academy Award. It just made sense, especially after it got into Best Picture, it got into Best Supporting Actor for Adam Driver. I guess it could have received a few more Oscar nominations, but in a year where we had a lot of big contenders for adapted screenplay, Black Klansman just always stood out from the crowd a little bit. Even if you didn't love the movie, you could really appreciate that screenplay. And so that was a thrill to see Spike Lee finally win his Oscar along with the other 3 screenwriters for Black Klansman. And as I've talked about before on the channel, one of my favorite Oscar win announcements ever is Samuel L. Jackson announcing the win for Spike Lee.
Oh, the house! Charlie Wachtell, David Rabinowitz, and Kevin Wilmot and Spike Lee!
Number 3, Call Me By Your Name.
I just played it the way Busoni would have played it if he'd altered Liszt's version.
And what is wrong with Bach, the way Bach would have played Bach's
Bach never wrote it for the guitar. In fact, we're not even sure Bach wrote it
at all.
I
asked.
Ugh, this movie, Call Me By Your Name, such a masterwork, such a great piece of storytelling with just an amazing lead performance, a breakthrough all-timer performance by Timothée Chalamet. This was my introduction to the world of Luca Guadagnino, and oh my gosh, I remember sitting in that movie theater really not knowing much about Call Me By Your Name. I knew it was a gay love story. It hadn't started getting nominated for anything yet. It was still a little bit early that fall, I want to say. And oh my god, did I just sink into this movie. I have seen it 5 or 6 times. It's just so beautifully done in every respect. It's the kind of story that just hits you in the heart every time you watch it. That Timothée Chalamet performance, I will never forget. And that screenplay by James Ivory is just so impeccable. It's so nuanced and observant and not in a rush to get anywhere the screenplay needs to be. Like, this is a film that takes its time, and I love that about Call Me By Your Name. I was so thrilled it won Best Adapted Screenplay at the Oscars, and I was especially thrilled that James Ivory got a standing ovation. So well deserved.
Whether we're straight or gay or somewhere in between, we've all gone through first love, I hope, and come out the other side mostly intact.
Number 2, Moonlight.
You gotta know right now. Not yet.
So I went back and forth for the last couple hours on my number 1 and number 2. Like, at some point I had it like it is in the final video, then I switched them because Moonlight was my favorite film of 2016. I do think it's easily one of the finest films of the decade. I've watched it at least 4 times, maybe 5 times. It's such a rich cinema experience. And when you're talking about adaptation, like, this is one of the very best examples of any screenplay of that decade. All of the swings that narrative takes, telling that captivating story of how that boy transitions into a man over 3 separate storylines, really, 3 separate actors. It's such an original piece of filmmaking, of storytelling. It's such a great screenplay. I remember on the night, I was like, I bet La La Land is going to win director and picture, but Moonlight is going to win adapted screenplay. At least it can take that, along with Best Supporting Actor, of course, for Mahershala Ali. And so I was really thrilled to see this great movie win in the screenplay category. I was also confused, I guess is the word I'd use, when Moonlight eventually won Best Picture, but more on that, like, later on. When it comes to adapted screenplay, this movie had the win in the bag, I would say. Everybody loved Moonlight that year. It was just such a special work of cinema that I will always cherish. I love this win for Moonlight. It is an all-timer.
All those black and brown boys and girls and non-gender conforming who don't see themselves, we're trying to show you, you and us. So thank you, this is for you.
So why don't I have Moonlight at number 1? Again, it was very close. They're basically tied, I would say. It was really tough to pick what is my number 1 choice. But, like, just by a hair, my number 1 choice for the Best Adapted Screenplay Oscar win of the 2010s is The Social Network.
Why didn't you show this to me?
It was addressed to me.
They're saying that we stole the Facebook from Divya Narendra and the Winklevoss.
I know what it says.
Did we?
In a way, I feel like I have this at number 1 because if I was forced to read one of these 10 screenplays, like right now in this moment, I had to crack open the script and read it from top to bottom, I think I would choose The Social Network over Moonlight. I think I would rather read The Social Network. That's kind of my reasoning, but both screenplays are fantastic. Both screenplays are just 2 of the best we've gotten in the movies in the last 20 years. And The Social Network, I feel like as time goes on, just becomes a better and better film, so rich with ideas, so beautifully crafted in every way, on every level. And Aaron Sorkin, of course, is one of our great writers. He's done so much good work in both film and TV, and I do think The Social Network is his crowning achievement. Like, what he was able to pack into that screenplay, there is not a wasted minute, not a wasted character. Every single moment builds on the last, and where it ends, like that ending to The Social Network, I have not stopped thinking about 14 years since I first saw it. I think most of us were scared about a Facebook movie. I remember when this project was announced, I was like, ooh, I don't know about that. But like pairing David Fincher with Aaron Sorkin, what were we nervous about? Like, what were we possibly scared of? With that phenomenal cast, especially, like, The Social Network was always going to be a very good movie. What we got was a masterpiece, and it all started with that Aaron Sorkin screenplay. I'm so happy he won Best Adapted Screenplay at the Oscars. I mean, talk about well-deserved. What a great speech. What an all-timer victory. Aaron Sorkin winning Best Adapted Screenplay for The Social Network is my choice for the best win in this category of the 2010s.
Roxy Sorkin, your father just won the Academy Award. I'm going to have to insist on some respect from your guinea pig. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for watching and subscribing, and let me know in the comments below how would you rank Best Adapted Screenplay Oscar wins of the 2010s, and I'll see you next time at the awards contender.